Tinich.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. It is July 13th, 2021, and the time at the moment is 6:15 p.m. And this is the organizational meeting for the Tubman Local School Council. We'll take roll call and then we'll approve the agenda.
Okay, I'll Emily, you are recording. Great. Okay, thank you. So we'll proceed with I tell you what, actually, Sarah, can you run roll call? I'm going to try to reach out to Mac.
Yes. Cindy
Watola, parent rep, present.
Thank you. Emily
Holberg, teacher rep.
Lori
Vietz, parent rep.
Kate
Kaczynski, parent rep.
Kirsten
Kirsten Clay, parent rep.
Marilyn.
I don't believe she's here. She's on.
All right.
Tina Holder King, parent rep. Okay, there's Mac.
We're just doing roll call. I will say my name, Sarah Ogeto, parent rep. Okay. Mac, we're doing roll call. Do you mind letting us know?
Hey, sorry, I was just getting my headphones connected. Mac Laboon, community representative.
Tina, I believe that's everyone.
Okay, I think so.
I have nine.
All right, we have a quorum. I trust everyone has seen the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda for today?
First, we need to do selection of temporary chairperson, Dr. Tinich.
I just assumed that I was the temporary chair, being in the role of the administrator in charge, but you can have someone else.
Well, yeah, according to the agenda, the item 3 is selection of a temporary chairperson. So typically in the organizational meeting, the principal or designee begins the meeting. And
Yes.
then when we move into item 3, where a selection of a temporary chairperson is done, then that person chairs the meeting until we actually select a chair. But it does not have to change. The temporary chairperson can be the principal.
Your call.
Okay. I will motion that we just maintain the principal as a temporary chair until such time as a chair is selected. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please vote by raising hand. I believe that is unanimous. Okay. All right. Dr. Tinich, if you could move on do you have the agenda there with you?
I do. Hold on a
Okay.
second. And now, according to the agenda, it's the selection of the temporary secretary. Is there a motion out there for a temporary secretary?
I'll make this least painful. I volunteer as temporary secretary.
Okay. Let's then go to the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion out there to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
I second the motion.
All in favor, raise your hand. Anyone opposed? I believe we have consensus. Let's move on to item 6, nomination and selection of the chairperson. Are there any nominations for the role of chair of the local school council at Tubman School?
I nominate
Aye.
Tina Holder King.
And
Is
I
there a
second
second?
I
I
second.
that. Second that.
Are there any other nominations out there? Speak up if there are. Hearing none, all in favor of Tina Holder King as being the chair of the Tubman Local School Council, please indicate so now.
We know a good thing when we got it.
I'll take that, Lori. Thank you.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Anyone opposed? There's consensus, unanimity that Tina Holder King is the chairperson of the local school council. And at this moment in time, I turn over the chair to Ms. Holder King.
Thank you, Dr. Tinich, and thank you for being here and fulfilling this role for us. We appreciate it. I know it was pretty short notice as well, so thank you for that. Item number 7, the agenda, nomination and selection of the secretary. Are there any nominations?
May I nominate Kirsten to be secretary?
I was just going to nominate you. Sorry, Sarah. I was looking for the space bar
Wait
here.
a minute, wait a
I
minute.
nominate Sarah Ogeto.
I'll nominate
Are there any seconds?
Kirsten.
We haven't moved to motions yet, Dr. Tinich. I'm sorry, what did you say, Cindy?
No, she's shaking her head. I was going to nominate Kirsten. She's like, no, 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 no.
Okay. Sarah, do you accept that nomination?
We need, go ahead, Kate.
No, I'll nominate myself.
Okay.
Was that Kate?
Oh, no, I was just saying, we have to have a secretary, right? We have,
Well, and you know,
we
You
have,
have-
actually, I was going to propose something
It's
because
an
this
important
is
role.
this is something that you know it is definitely an important role, and it's been a bit of a struggle. It is a big responsibility, and so I would the nominations being as they are, I would like to move that the role of secretary is a rotating role and determined based on who is able to attend the meeting.
The trick with that is the official secretary must sign the new principal's contract. There are some official duties tied to that.
Okay. And then I will amend my motion that the actual responsibility for minute taking rotate at meetings, and that official secretary for the role of any approvals or signature, I nominate Kate. Oh wait, I thought you nominated yourself. No,
I
who
thought
was
Cindy-
it then?
That was Cindy.
I
think.
did.
And sorry,
I
I was
did.
like,
Everyone was like looking like a deer in the headlights. I'm like,
I thought.
I'll do it.
I'm sorry, Kate. I will amend my motion
It would be
again.
disastrous for our organization for me to be the secretary.
Okay, let me amend my motion again. So my motion is that the role of minute taking rotate based on meeting attendance, and for any actions that require official secretary capacity, I nominate Cindy.
I second that.
Any further nominations? I'm assuming no. Any discussion on that motion?
Thank you, Cindy.
Then we will vote.
You're welcome.
All in favor? It appears to be unanimous. No, I'm sorry. Wait. Let's vote again, please. I didn't see every hand up. Okay, it does appear unanimous. Thank you so much, Cindy. Okay, we will move to item number 8 on the agenda, nomination and selection of vice chair. I would like to nominate Sarah Ghetto as vice chair.
I would like to second that.
Any additional nominations? Sarah, I presume you accept the nomination.
Excellent.
All in favor of the motion for Sarah for vice chair, please vote. Okay, the voting seems to be unanimous. Thank you, Sarah. Item number 9 is nomination selection of FOIA-OMA officer. I believe for the past year, this has been Mr. Hall. Are there any, he is unable to make it this evening. Are there any nominations?
Could we nominate Mr. Hall and absentia?
You know, that's a good question. I don't know if we can do that or not. Yeah, I'm not sure. Let's have some discussion right quick.
Emily, could you text him and if he's not unreachable,
Yes.
see if he's okay with that?
You
Yes.
can nominate him and pick him. He can always come back at another meeting and say, I have other things I want to do.
I only recognize he went through the training and he's just been such a great asset to supporting his professional capacity in that role, and then just the board as well. And
I agree.
I'm texting him now. I shouldn't speak for him, but I feel like he would say he would do it, just for my own my own opinion, but stay tuned.
In the meantime, we will, while we're waiting for him to say yes or no, we will entertain the nomination. Are there any other nominations for FOIA-OMA officer? All in favor of Mr. Hall, please raise your hand. Okay, it looks to be unanimous. Okay, please let us know what you hear back, Emily, but we're going to move on to item 10, nomination and selection of Sergeant at Arms, which is an optional post. I would like to nominate Mac.
I accept.
Yay, I second that. Woo-hoo.
And, you know, just for discussion on the matter, I will say, as we move into in-person meetings, there will be increased responsibility around that and around that particular role. So I do think it's something that we should continue to have. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll move into voting. Those in favor, please raise your hand. It appears unanimous. Thank you, Mac. Okay, the next item on the agenda is to set the regular meeting schedule for the upcoming school year. As many of you likely know, we typically begin meeting as a council in September, typically on the first Wednesday of every month. And so what I am proposing is that we maintain that schedule, and I will give you the dates of those in a moment. Of course, we can have discussion on it, but I am proposing that we maintain that practice, as well as for now set the meetings for 6 p.m. And then once we know what the return to the building is going to look like and the structure, then we can always have conversations about adjusting some of those meetings to better engage our families and also figure out what our capacity will be for maintaining the ability for people to tune in without having to be present in the building. And so I propose these dates again as placeholders, but definitely not set in stone. So let me give you those dates before we have additional discussion. Those dates would be September 8th, October 6th, November 10th, December 8th, January 5th, February 2nd, March 2nd, April 6th, May 5th, and June 1st. Is there any discussion?
Were you saying it's usually the first Wednesday of every month?
Mm-hmm.
I just asked because the first Wednesday of September would be September 1.
Right. And that's just coming off of Labor Day. So I thought that might be a little bit pressed. And there may be one other one that either came off a holiday or something, but I'm, again, definitely open to moving if, people feel like it would be more convenient to go ahead and have that, the actual first Wednesday in September, not necessarily married to these dates.
No worries. I just wanted to make sure it was intentionally scheduled like that.
Are we back in school on January 5th?
Yes.
Okay, so the holiday's landing sooner.
Yep.
Now, I did not have the spring break information in front of me. Do anyone have those dates?
Correct. That we break for spring break on the 8th. So the 6th is, we couldn't have it on the 13th.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think having the LSC meeting day 3 of school is a great idea. I think we should probably do it the 8th instead of the 1st. I agree.
Any additional discussion?
I know we always end up getting into trouble with the Jewish high holidays. Does anybody know if that's problematic in September or October? No? Okay. Well, that's the one thing I think we should probably check.
Yeah, I'll make a note.
I can check right now.
Yeah. Rosh Hashanah is the 7th of September.
Yeah.
And then October, I don't see anything, at least that's coming up in mine.
So with that holiday being on the 7th, would the meeting pose any kind of imposition being on the 8th? I'm not familiar with the tradition, so asking, because I don't want to schedule something that may exclude families by default. I'm going to suggest leaving it as it is for now, and I will follow up to become better educated on that and see if it's something that we may need to move to keep from impacting our families.
So I think we probably shouldn't do September 8th because
Okay.
usually sundown, I'm seeing sundown on the 6th through sundown on the 8th. And so I would assume we shouldn't
Okay.
do the 7th, and we probably should move it to the 1st.
Okay. Thank you for checking that, Kate, because I definitely was unaware. So moving it to the 1st, that would be, we start school on the 30th, and so that, and then we're off that Monday. So we typically start school that the Tuesday after Labor Day. So I'm hoping that our families will be, even those who had to adjust for the new school year, I'm hoping those families that by that time, since it would be within the time that we typically start school, that families will be acclimated enough to tune into the meeting if they so desire. So we'll plan that meeting for September 1st, unless there is strong opposition from the council.
I don't have any strong opposition. I was also being mindful to think about, are there any first week school activities that we want to be mindful of that I can't think of right now. I don't know if there's things that happen each day that week, first week when school gets out, but I just wanted to put that out there, just in case there's, that happening. I can't remember, unfortunately. I apologize. But I did check the other dates, and they align with the school calendar, the CPS calendar. So
okay, thank you. I think we have Patty. Are you on the line? I thought I saw. Yeah, I see your name, Patty. Can I ask you a question, please?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here. Sorry for that loud noise.
Thanks for calling in. Do you know of any first week, or I guess technically the second week, any second week activities that we need to be mindful of as we plan?
None that I could think of, but I didn't realize that the LSC meeting was tonight, and I forgot that I did need to get approval on a fundraiser for October, as well as the Dining Nights fundraiser. It slipped my mind that this meeting was tonight. So is there a plan for an LSC meeting in August, or I assume there'll be something before August?
Yes, there definitely will be more meetings to get us through the principal selection process at least. And as long as, and we have to have quorum, so we can, you and I can connect, and then we'll get you on the agenda for one of those meetings.
Yeah, thank you so much. I just had a panic attack, and I texted Kristen about that because I'm like, oh no, I forgot to let you know. So yeah, if you could do that, that would be great. But we don't have any, aside from the back to school picnic, which would be in August anyway, we don't have any conflicts for that first week.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And so I think for consistency's sake, we should just do September 1st. It'll be the first week of school. It won't be ideal, but that's okay. The 7th, or the 8th and the 15th would both run into the Jewish holidays, so neither of them are an option. So I think we're just stick with the first Wednesday of the month, and we'll deal with whatever could present itself.
Good. Is there any other discussion on meeting dates? I think from what Sarah has checked, I think we're all good for just the one change for the September meeting being the 1st instead of the 8th. And these meeting dates will be published. Any additional discussion?
I was just going to share something that I've been waiting to share, but now seems like a good time since we're talking next year. I told a couple people on this call are aware, but I'm actually expecting. So I'm going to be going on a leave at the end of October. So just adding to the continued change around here. But so I don't know, we could talk offline, Tina, about like a temporary teacher, or you guys will have quorum without me. I don't know how that will work, but there'll be a period of time in the fall, in the early winter, where I will be on maternity leave. So.
Well, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. Thanks so much.
And I would share with you, first of all, congratulations. I've been saying that for a little bit.
Thank you. Yes, and if we were in person, people would probably know by now. But
but what I have historically done is brought in the replacement a week or two before, and we swallow it within our professional development substitute bucket stuff so that the kids bond with the person. And
Right. I meant not so much the sub for the first grade, but for the LSC, I guess I meant, like if there was a teacher rep that needed to step in, or if Nick sufficed for that.
you might be concerned about the LSC. I'm concerned about those first grade.
Oh yes, I figured me and you and the future principal could talk about that too at a later
There you
time.
go.
Okay, thank you so much, Emily, for
Sure.
the heads up. But again, most of all, congratulations to you and your family. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the principal report. Dr. Tenich. Oh, well, I'm sorry. Before you get started, Dr. Tenich, Emily, are you able to pull up those documents that Dr. Tenich sent? Can you present that?
Sure.
Okay, Dr. Tenich, just please just let Emily know which documents you want to view.
Thank you, Emily. First of all, right before the end of the school year, the PPLC was empowered, and they gave me a set of recommendations for professional development. You should be aware as a council that while the system has pushed ILTs, and I respect that, I work with the ILT, but the PPLC is empowered under the law to advise the principal and the local school council on matters related to the program and what I like to call what's best for kids. So as the law evolved and changed, the two teacher representatives automatically became the co-chair of the PPLC. And they have the authority to speak to the council in harmony with the principal on what's best for the program and for the kids at the school. So I look to a PPLC. In my 25 years at Lincoln, we had a PPLC that was powerful and it was respected, because just like you respect your teachers. And so you've got a really wonderful group of teachers and, an important teacher team. So just be aware that you're going to be seeing some things. I will look to the PPLC myself for advice at times, particularly in the upcoming, month, 2 months. I hope to God not more than that. I hope you take care of what you need to. But, in harmony with that, there's also the belief on my part that the CIWP rules, you went through a lot of work to put that together. What I always advise new principals, because I've been coaching for 15 years, is that they don't have to, they were not hired to change the school. They're hired to assist the school in achieving outstanding academic achievement and social emotional growth and community growth. So in saying that, you've got a CIWP that you worked on, and you have now both an ILT and a PPLC. And I'll look to the PPLC and to you as we go through the next steps, which suddenly, as I shared with a couple of you, have become the most enormous movement of money into the system that I have seen in my couple years. I wanted to give you an update on construction, and there was a handout. Okay, Emily, thank you.
Dr. Tinich, can I just ask one question, please?
Sure.
The PPLC. Now, what does that acronym stand for? I imagine it's Leadership Council or something.
Yes, it's the Professional Personnel Leadership Committee. In the early days of school reform, it was the PPAC, which was an advisory committee. But now it is a leadership committee. It is elected by the teachers and staff, usually in the beginning of the year. The principal calls a meeting and they vote on it. So now
it's an internal council. It's an internal group, correct?
It is.
Okay.
Though I have to tell you, I learned at the Lincoln principal selection process that they're subject to the Open Meetings Act, which is a new one for me, but so be it. So I look to the PPLC to speak on what's best for the educational program from their point of view. And then we blend it with the local school council's wisdom and knowledge. So
thank you for that clarification, Dr. Tinich.
Saying that, here's what's happening with the ADA construction. And I will tell you, I do think the team that's working and the guy that's leading it are really skilled and are moving forward. And, as in anything related to construction, any of you who have ever had a kitchen or bathroom remodeled will know there's an ideal world and then there's the real world and what can be pulled off. So this is the interior work that's flashed up here. Main entrance, interior set of 4 doors. It's being changed to 3 doors. And while it may not be ready for day 1 of the school year with kids, I have a guarantee that it will take place in, a reasonable time, and it will be minimal, if no disruption to anything. The main office right now is under construction. We can't use it. We can't get in there. But they're working on ADA compliance. You can see the rest of it. The real trick right now is the gym stage is going to have a lift that allows for ADA access for kids who need it. And, I know you know this, but let me tell you from an outsider's point of view, you have a great accommodation for kids who have special needs. And I won't bore you with details, but the lift may not be there on August 30th, but the real question is, will it be there in time for the first assembly gathering? And the gentleman who's running the project says they are working at full speed on that. Right now, the building is undergoing, the auditorium in particular, is undergoing lead abatement and asbestos abatement. And, they're working hard on all of this. What I said to the guy who is running the project, you have a great engineer, by the way. You should know that. He is responsive. He is, he's hardworking, and I tell them both, I can handle anything except I don't like surprises. So, and neither do the parents and the council. So keep me in the loop. You have these neat projects going on. I spoke to all the 7th graders on the last full day that they were there. And I had these 2 young women who said, I asked them questions. It's like, is there going to be gender neutral access? And I said, I don't know the answer, but I will have the answer in 20 minutes. And I did, because there is going to be all the appropriate moves on this. Right now, if you walked into the building, I wouldn't recommend too much without a mask. However, I have clarification that if you need it, we can make it happen. Okay. So, they're working fast and furious. They know the timeline. In my own experience, I don't believe everything that everyone says, but I will keep you informed. All right. And once Emily gets me all those emails, I will have much more direct contact. And there's an open invite to you. Not that I'm looking for work, but if you want to talk or you have questions, my experience in this system is, let's just say, large. And on a last note on this, if you need assistance as you are vetting your candidates, I can get information that you cannot get. I already have something on one person you've already interviewed. It's your call. I don't need to be involved, but if you would like information that you cannot get, I'm glad to assist you. Let me move on. I hate to make this longer, but is anyone question on construction?
I have a question. So we do have, can you talk a little bit about that list? There are some students who are wheelchair bound, and so that to me is concerning just in terms of how they'll be able to get to the classrooms. Does that affect their ability to do that? Just wanted to get some clarity around that.
Sarah, let me clarify this. This is the lift for the auditorium to get kids on stage, because I know you have some kids who have that issue. The other lift, ready to go. Everything's going to be, as far as I know, ready to go, and I will inform you at the earliest possible moment, because I don't like surprises. I'm sure you don't as well. Any other questions on construction?
Yes, Dr. Tennant, one question about the construction and just thinking a bit forward to the candidate forums that we need to hold. Just wondering if there's any kind of timetable as far as availability of the auditorium.
Let me check on that. But, my assumption was that you were going to do the candidate forums via a Zoom, thing. But I'll get clarification. I had a couple pictures for you. That's for the next meeting. At the moment, there's lead and asbestos abatement going on, and I can't get in there. But I have been told I can get people into the building. It's just, as we all think, safety first, right? So let me clarify that tomorrow, and I'll get back to everyone on this. Okay?
Thank you.
Anyone else on construction?
So I have a question. So there is going to be a gender neutral bathroom for students.
Yes.
I love this. This is very exciting, and it was on our list.
I have to tell you that these 2 7th graders asked me about it, and I said, God, I have to go back and check. And I did, and I went back because it's important to tell. These are 7th graders that are 8th graders now. They need to know, and these are like future student leaders. They're student leaders. Give them the information. I don't hide information, not to students as well, because we want to empower them to these are strong kids. I loved being, I loved speaking with them.
I think
Right.
these are, I just want to say, I think these are all really meaningful additions to our schools. So it's not just like,
Absolutely.
oh, we painted a wall to make it prettier. This is really meaningful work. And I
No.
think that our parents and our students and our community are going to be very grateful and excited to be a part of this.
This is substantive, and we all would be remiss if we didn't speak about it. It's like highlight it to kids and highlight that their voice was heard. This is how you prepare kids for leadership, in my opinion. I don't mean to make this meeting longer. I've been known to have 3-hour LSC meetings, and I don't want to do that. Let me move on to yesterday. You have a guardian angel. I do. Mira Weber texted me that I needed to attend a meeting at noon, a Zoom meeting. And this was a disconnect, which I would share with you. The disconnect is that we were in Tubman is kind of in no man's land at the moment, at this second, and it's over as far as I'm concerned. But we were in between ISP and Network 4. And now we're Network 4. You have a great chief. He's been very responsive, and I'm not buttering up because I don't need to, but he's been good. And his staff suddenly are being made aware that they have to pay attention to us. And where this really comes to play is in terms of money. It's like, do not leave us out of the money question because you'll die. Pardon my, So yesterday at noon, there was a meeting mandatory about a major board program. As I shared with Tina, it's kind of like the Marshall Plan after World War II. There's money that's coming in from several angles, and it's dealing with some pieces that are the natural offshoot of the pandemic. First of all, what are kids feeling? What are parents feeling? What are, where's the excitement about coming back to school? What triggers that excitement? And suddenly, and the biggest question of all, which you must all understand, the role of schools is to deal with outstanding academic achievement. People will come for preschool, but they won't stay if kids aren't moving their way through and getting into, where they need to go in their lives. So the subject of this 1-hour meeting yesterday is the program called Moving Forward Together. And it is a planning and a infusion of money that says to schools, where are your kids socially, emotionally, academically? Did they lose instruction last year? Well, the system doesn't want to focus on that. What they want to focus on is, how do we supplement? How do we enrich? How do we move the program to cover the needs that kids have? And you all know, you have your own kids or will. And the question is, what are they thinking, feeling, and kids ought to be excited about coming to school when it starts. So in terms that I've never seen before in dealing with this system, there's monies that are opening up. And one set of them is planning for this next year with significant dollar amounts. And by significant, I mean for, dealing with the questions of equity and, academic achievement and the like. There's going to be money in a variety of areas. And I could just, as I said to Tina, I could just sit back and develop this plan myself. No, that needs to be aired by the PPLC and the ILT. It needs to be planned. It needs to be worked on by the team that developed the CIWP. And it's a great time to hear from voices. You're in this incredibly open period that you're selecting a new leader to work with. And what are the tools and what are the resources that are needed to do those things? So what I'm signaling you is, while I could do this myself on the drive to work in the morning, that's not the way it should happen. I would encourage either the CIWP team or this council, but you've got a lot of work in front of you. I would say that we need another committee, and I hate to say another committee at this point in time, knowing what's out there, but it is on a philosophical level. It's important to hear from what the various voices think ought to be done. I want to hear from the teachers, of course, because somebody's got to do it. And, the community, because there are people in the community that can do it, that can be an assist. There are resources out there. And I will tell you from my experience at Lincoln, I quickly showed them how you could go from a dollar for dollar match to a double or triple or quadruple. Because if you've got some skin in the game on your own part, other people are going to come along. And, let me just say, and then I'll stop. There are monies on this Moving Forward Together, on this out of school time program. And I invite you all to talk about this and to come up with a committee. It doesn't have to be huge, but it ought to be representative in terms of all of the equity questions so that we can move forward with great resolve. And this is, as I've been reflecting, this is a time to say, what will excite kids about coming to school? So I could talk for another hour. I'm not going to do that. I'm open to any questions you have. And, on with the show, with one exception. All right. There's been this thing about a fee policy. And what board policy has been is that, the council has to approve a fee policy. And we can come back to this at another meeting that you suggest, but we ought to resolve it one way or another. Every school is different on this, I can tell you. At Lincoln, we had no fee policy. I wasn't collecting money for stuff, but that meant that, if there was need, no one missed an opportunity based on economics. So, but that was me and that was then. And I'm just your AIC that's going to fade away, but I'll assist you, as often as you deal with respect. Open to any questions. Otherwise, I'm out of here.
I have a question, Dr. Tinich. What is the timeline for the allocation of this money?
Great question. They are saying that they want it allocated by August 2nd. Now, this is typical for not to be bum wrapping, the powers that pay me, but it's a narrow timeline. However, Cindy, you recognize that we want to get going on this. It's like, and I would encourage you all to think broadly. That's me. Knowing that number one, the school's not accessible to kids. It's like, what the hell are we going to do? I'll buy whatever tents we need. We will buy whatever tents we need to make things happen. But there ought to be a technology piece. There ought to be a whole host of things. And by God, I think we should push field trips as the city is opening up, especially for the younger kids, because the research is clear. It's best practice on this. It's like, we live in this incredible city, and I would bet you, we could beat the rush. That's my guess. I could be wrong.
Mr. Tinich, a quick question. So it sounds like one of the things that we're going to need to do is put together some sort of committee to kind of consider these questions about how to make these purchases.
Exactly.
Is there anyone from the Tubman administration that you think would be interested in participating on a committee like that?
I hate to tell you this, but of course I will be involved. And you have a wonderful assistant principal who will be involved. And I think the leadership team has to be involved to the degree that they can.
Of course, absolutely. And that was one of the questions I had was, to what folks would be interested in participating. Emily, maybe, you could help us on the LSC figure out who else from the school might be interested in participating in a committee like that. And then perhaps, Tina, we can figure out whomever else on the LSC makes sense to be on a group like that.
Right. We were having, before we reached quorum and we were having some discussion, we were talking about when those decisions had to be made, as well as what the stipulations would be for what that money can be used from, what exactly we need to vote on. So I think in the interest of time, I know Dr. Tinich, you mentioned you have a meeting tomorrow, right, for additional detail, if I remember correctly.
And I will I'll send you all the information, all of it.
Okay. And so I will follow up with Dr. Tinich and get some details and make sure that we all have them as a council, and then we can work together to move forward to getting people to the table once we have all the information and can make a sound decision. That's a very good suggestion and great question. Cindy, did you have another question, Cindy?
Yeah, are we reporting to the area and our chief? Or are we reporting to the board at large?
That's a good question. I'm assuming that what we send, the chief will look at, but I can't, unless it's a violation of the rules and regs, which we're not going to do, he's going to approve. This is a great time to think.
Yeah, I think we'll be able to make that determination too once we have all of the rules for that money, and we'll definitely make decisions based on what the requirements are, for sure. Any other questions for Dr. Tinich?
Nothing here. I would note, given what the date is that we have to approve it, presumably we're going to have to schedule another special LSC meeting with 48 hours of notice there. So as we work backwards, we'll have to think about what our date is to have like the numbers all kind of ready to go.
Mac, note that you can schedule, as you schedule a principal selection meeting, those are open meetings to begin with.
Right.
You could include, I'm also always one who likes to hit two birds with one stone. And your time is precious. Everyone's time is. You could schedule a brief meeting before you go into a closed session or anything along that line. That's my experience,
All right.
Okay,
Last thing is an open invite. If you'd like to see the school from the AIC's point of view, I'm glad to do that. All you have to do is email me, and glad to sit with you and tell you what I know at that point in time. Okay?
Thank you, Dr. Tinich.
My pleasure.
Okay, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is public participation. Did we have anyone sign up?
Since Nick couldn't join, I was forwarded the information from Mira, and we had one person. Laura, if you were still interested in speaking.
Okay, in just a second. Thank you, Emily.
Sure, that's right.
Mac, if you could read
the... members of the public are welcome to make comments and ask questions, but must sign in to participate. The public is called upon to speak in the order they sign in. The public is kindly requested to limit their comments and questions to 3 minutes. Based on the comments or questions, the principal may address some concerns directly and, if necessary, create an action step for the LSC to follow up with the involved parties at a future date. While the LSC will do its best to address any comments or questions, when necessary, more time may be needed to adequately address a particular concern. I'll be doing the timing of 3 minutes, and I'll make a little sign or something when your time is up.
Thank you. And Laura, if you could go ahead now, please. Thank you for calling in.
Hey guys, thanks. I just wanted to thank all the LSC members. Sorry, I'm at the park, so if there's background noise. But yeah, just really thank all the LSC members for working so hard. There's so much going on right now, and we really appreciate everything that you guys are doing. And actually, that moving forward together issue is kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to ask some questions. I watched the CPS board meeting, and I was just wondering if you guys had watched that, and if you hadn't, if you saw that CPS has invested heavily in the Wilson program that we purchased. They're specifying for diverse learners, but the CPS, the presentation said structured literacy teaching is the most effective approach for students who experience unusual difficulty learning to read and spell printed words. Students will make substantial progress if basic skills are taught in a multisensory, systematic way. I argue that's the best way to teach all the kids, but they also state that elementary school teachers of diverse learners will receive training and resources connected to the structured literacy, and they're going to increase the amount of level 1 trained teachers, which is a year-long course from 29 currently to 1,400, and as well as train an extra 3,400 teachers with the 3-day introductory course. I was just wondering if you've heard about and how we can make sure that our teachers, who I think would have interest in doing that, make sure that they can gain access to that. And then I would just hope that you consider using that program. If you could review when you're doing all the stuff with the principal. I know obviously it's hard to say right now, but using that in your tier 1, especially with some of these learning gaps that have happened. I think it's important to invest in all of our teachers, not just the diverse learners, but all the kids, in using that K-2 curriculum, the foundations. I think you just looking at a similar school that's diverse through the lottery, but still down the road is Hawthorne with 97% growth rate. They use foundations in all their classes, and ours is 64th. At least that's what was on the CPS website. And I know there's more to analyzing different between scores, but it's just hard not to notice that. And then also, I just wanted to reiterate that reading is a huge equity issue, if not like one of the biggest equity issues out there. If you have a child that's struggling to read, it costs major money to get them the help that they need. Not all the kids are going to have access to that type of support and that type of money. I know that at least 7 families are getting private tutoring through Wilson or Orton Gillingham, and all of them attribute the kids' progress to these programs. So I just think that alone, I don't really have a big social group, but and that's just like within our grade. And so I just hope that you guys can kind of think about that, and wondering with the new principal and just making sure that that's kind of maybe just looked at. It's give it a hard look. And just also, I think that meeting on the
And
short
that's 3
combo,
minutes.
oh yeah, is really interesting with that moving forward stuff. So anyway, that's all. Thank you. Sorry.
Thanks, Laura.
Laura, one thing, if you have it handy, what was that meeting date, the CPS board meeting? What was that meeting date, if anyone knows?
It was June 19th, or it was the June meeting. It was a special meeting just to talk about all this money.
Okay.
And that they also just specified that the schools will have the ability. So I'm just curious to see how we report. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's so for your note, one of our diverse learner teachers asked to be able to go to training, and we said yes, we have funds available. You don't want the Wilson program to be your major literacy program, just like reading recovery. However, for those kids who are in need, it is a highly effective program. So the research says, and you don't, but and it's a much longer discussion on the literacy front. We're encouraging those who want to do it, and CPS is suddenly opening up the ability for those kinds of things to happen. Just so you know.
I have a question along that. I know that there has been a lot of talk from parents who have called into the LSC and things about the fact that we do not have a reading specialist at our school. Is it a possibility that maybe with some of this money that's coming in, that we are able to look at that position and look at some different resources?
You know, that's definitely, yeah, I second those concerns that we hear for sure. As far as the possibility to use that money, I don't have the answer to that yet, but it's definitely something that we should keep on the table and keep looking at, including the programs and supplements that Laura mentioned. I know there's some, I recall some items in the budget and planning that are meant to address some of these gaps, but I think we definitely need to keep it on the table to see if there's more that we can do, especially with the newfound funds.
I would say to you, as I said to the Lincoln community, if I'm going to invest, it's not going to be in a reading specialist or a math specialist. I'm going to invest in my teachers. And this is where that question of, the Wilson program, for instance, and one of the best special ed teachers I hired, I stole her from the South Side. She was doing reading recovery. And I said, what if I had you as a special ed teacher doing reading recovery without the paper? And she got this huge smile on her face because it said, go for it, And in addition to this, as the research is showing, the more we can get experienced people, whether they are retirees or college graduates who are looking for work and looking for meaningful contact, this reduces the rate to one-on-one before school, during school, after school. That's the direction I'm coming from. It's your school, but that's what I would encourage.
So that was the one person for public participation, correct? Okay, thank you, Emily. Okay, we'll move on to item 14 on the agenda. Announce first regular virtual meeting date. That meeting date is September 1 for our regular meeting. However, I encourage everyone to stay informed through the weekly updates that go out through Aspen. And those will continue to provide updates to the principal selection process, as well as agendas for special meetings moving forward, which we will definitely have between now and the school year, as there's plenty that the council needs to vote on during this process. And during some of those meetings, we will address the information that Dr. Tennant shared tonight and make moves according to that information so that we submit the information we need to submit to use that money within the time frame required. Also, we will add the fundraising that needs approval prior to the start of the school year to one of those special meetings as well. Any other discussion on meeting dates or any questions?
Can I just ask a question? Like, it seems like this committee to be talking about these special funds probably needs to be formed like immediately and have a meeting immediately. And so I guess I'm just wondering, it's not an LSC that we need to vote on the committee. So all of that stuff can happen via email quickly, I guess is my question. Just because I don't think we're going to be able to wait till the next time we meet to figure a lot of that stuff out. The only thing the LSC would need to vote on is the actual expenditure of the money, and everything else can be done email-wise.
That's my understanding with the limited information that I have, but until we get, the details, then I'm definitely not going to make any definitive statement. But you're absolutely right. It's definitely something we need to move on quickly. So I think once we have all that, and with upcoming meetings for the moving candidates to the second interviews, that should be happening, I would say, within the next week. So that's something we'll get on the meeting agenda right away. Is there anything else before we move on to the next item? The next item on the agenda is to adjourn. Is there a motion?
I move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Please, we will go to a vote for adjourn. Please vote if you are in favor of adjourning. It appears unanimous. We are adjourned at 7:22. Thank you, everyone, for your time. Council, thank you for your continued work here during the meetings, as well as all the work that's going on in between. Everyone, have a great evening.